Hello there, thanks for coming by PosterCentral.com's video blog today. I'm Pete Howard. And did you know that Elvis Presley loved and admired the headliner on this poster, Roy Hamilton? I mean, Roy came along at just the right time, just before Elvis entered his Sun Records era, and Elvis was a sponge for inspirational R&B vocalists. And in the spring of 1954, just months before Elvis cut the record That's All Right, which started it all for him, Roy dominated the R&B charts with You'll Never Walk Alone. By dominated, I meant #1 for 2 months, You'll Never Walk Alone, so wow. And then Roy had 5 top 10 R&B hits, while Elvis was a Sun Records recording artist, including the #1 smashed Unchained Melody. Now, Presley biographer, very respected Peter Guralnick, said that Roy Hamilton was one of Elvis's chief vocal inspirations. And there are lots of photos out there of the two of them together, so you know they were close, and Roy was quite an inspiration and influence on Presley. So it's with great fun I can show you three of them, 1950s concert posters here today that are headlined by Mr. Roy Hamilton. This one here, as you can see, it does say, boy, the biggest rhythm and blues show of 1955, with Roy topping the bill. And you got that big, handsome, smiling face of his right there on the poster. And you've got those 2 huge #1 records in the red area right above his name. It's kind of funny, You'll Never Walk Alone is bigger than Unchained Melody and was twice as big a hit. So I don't know if that's a coincidence. And there's lots of other great talent on this poster. Heavens, it goes from, the Drifters to Laverne Baker, blues legend Jimmy Reed. But since I've got 3 Hamilton posters to show you today, I'm going to basically focus, just on Roy. So this was a tour blank, and this particular one, as stamped in at the top there in red print, as you can see, is from Chattanooga, Tennessee, on May 27th, 1955. Now, tour blanks were used a lot anyway in the 50s and 60s, but especially for package tours, because it would have been very difficult for each promoter's local designer to try to put together a concert poster with 10 people on it and get the right photographs and the right song titles and everything. So these caravan package tours just called for tour blanks, and that's what was almost always used. However, in what is unprecedented for me in my decades of poster collecting, I've never heard of or seen this before. Apparently, this particular tour, headlined by Hamilton, there were 2 different tour blanks made by 2 different poster printing companies with 2 entirely different layouts, so made by 2 different designers. So that is just crazy. So I'll start, I have started now, about to end with this one made by Globe Posters. It's a little larger than the standard 22 by 28 inches. Now before I move in the other one, just notice carefully how it's got, 4 big musicians' pictures, a couple of more smaller musicians' pictures, and so that's 6 pictures altogether. It really has a lot of photos of the musicians on it. And then look at this, boy, the exact same tour with the exact same talent, just 3 weeks later, and voila, you have this differently designed poster. It's a bit smaller at 18 by 24 inches, and by the way, it's, as you can see, quite toned from either tube lights or sunlight over the years, so this is really sunburned. But that's okay, it's original and it's there, but just a totally different artistic approach. It's just so fascinating to see these 2 differences. This was made by the E.J. Warner poster printing company out of New York City, and interestingly how they just chose to use ovals and boxes and strips of color to present the artists' names, whereas Globe had the big yellow background and then basically put all the information on top of that yellow brick in the background. So just a completely different approach by the poster designers. Now perhaps because of this one's smaller size, I don't know, but you did have 10 songs on this Globe, and they've been reduced down to just 6 songs here. And you had 6 photos, as I mentioned, of the musicians, and that's been reduced down to just 3 photos on this one. But interestingly, this one does have a couple of nicknames on here, and if you look at the picture of Roy Hamilton there, underneath it does say the Golden Boy of Song. So that's kind of a nice thing to have the Globe doesn't have. And guess what? This actually ups the talent level from 9 to 10. That's right, if you look at the second poster down in the lower right-hand corner, Look at that, Della Reese's name. You know, no picture, no song title or anything, but, you know, with the Erskine Hawkins Orchestra, there's Della Reese listed. And she would go to #1 R&B, but it would be a few years before she did. And then, of course, she'd go on to really a fabulous career in many media. Okay, so now, just for the fun of it, I'm going to jump ahead a couple of years after seeing those two tour blanks from 1955 with Roy Hamilton, and to 1957, November of 57, for this particular package tour, also headlining Roy Hamilton, that's right, except none of the other acts down below are the same. They've all changed. This is, after all, 2 years hence, and 57 instead of 1955. But another Roy Hamilton package tour, and there he is right up top in that yellow circle, and smiling away. And by the way, that's the exact same headshot you've seen on the previous two posters from 55. They just kept trimming it down and down until you have this one cropped closely around his face and he's just a floating head. But you know, it's funny because the previous two posters, one of them said The Golden Boy of Song, and the other one gave the song title You'll Never Walk Alone. This one has both of them. Look at that in the yellow circle. So, boy, you talk about an old concert poster that never saw the light of day or never saw sunshine. My goodness, look how white this is for 1957. Boy, definitely original, but just never hung near fluorescent lights or anywhere near direct sunlight. So every so often you sneak into one like this. I mentioned November 1957, but new notice, coincidentally, it's from Chattanooga, Tennessee again. So there you have that. Now this was done by the Murray Poster Printing Company out of New York in November of 1957. And you know, you might be saying to yourself, that looks kind of familiar, but where do I know that from? You know, you might say, I don't really know old Roy Hamilton concert posters, but you know, if you're a rock and roller and you like Buddy Holly and the Crickets and Chuck Berry, and who doesn't, you might be just realizing that you recognize this pattern, this design. Well, as it turns out, your imagination was not working overtime, but the artistic graphic designer at Murray Poster Printing Company was, because take a look at this. Their poster for Alan Freed's 1958 Big Beat Tour borrows heavily from the previous year's design for the Roy Hamilton Tour. Boy, just look at the similarities. I'll tell you, isn't that funny? Obviously made by the same company, obviously designed by the same designer. So if you thought you recognized the old Roy Hamilton thing, if you're a rock and roll fan, it was no coincidence. So there you have them, 3 headlining tours featuring Roy Hamilton in the 1950s when he was the golden boy of song and he had one big fan in Elvis Presley. Thanks a lot for dropping by. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time for something soon. Bye-bye.